Letting Go is going to be out in theaters on Friday. Stars Kevin Costner and Diane Lane, which is a huge coincidence since they played both Martha and Jonathan Kent in Man of Steel. Now they're teamed up again. It's almost like this is like a Man of Steel spin-off, although the discount version. Following the loss of their son, retired Sheriff George Blackledge and his wife Margaret leave their Montana ranch to rescue their young grandson from the clutches of a dangerous family living off of the grid in the Dakotas, headed by matriarch Blanche Wiebe. When they discover the Wiebes have no intention of letting the child go, George and Margaret are left with no choice but to fight for their family. I honestly did not know what to expect from this movie. I just knew Kevin Costner and Diane Lane were in it, and as I had said before, I just instantly made that connection that the two of them were in this movie as husband and wife, and the same thing happened in Man of Steel. This, for me, was like The Devil All the Time. This was a hard watch. This time more in terms of subject matter. I feel like The Devil All the Time was very hard to watch in terms of its violent content. This is more of its subject matter. There's a deep, bleak, dark, depressing atmosphere that overtakes this entire movie. From the opening frame to the very last shot of the movie. There doesn't feel like anybody has a happy ending or a happy moment at all. It just feels like this damp, cold mood has settled in and nobody is going to get what they want. Diane Lane is really, really good in this movie. This is probably the best I have seen her. Kevin Costner, for me, is honestly just kind of playing his usual roles. He's just Kevin Costner at this point, playing Kevin Costner. It felt very similar to Jonathan Kent, or at least his version of Jonathan Kent. I just feel like he didn't bring anything new to this genre or to his acting ability in this movie. He's just kind of that guy that you need to fill, like that Southern sheriff type of dude. And Diane Lane stole the show every time she was on screen. She was the scene stealer. She was the star of the show rather than Kevin Costner. I also like how they set this in the 60s. I wasn't even aware of the fact that this was set in the 60s. I just saw that they had an old car, and then all of a sudden it said 1961 on a gravestone. I was like, oh, this is in the 60s. So I like the setting, and I like the Western feel that this movie has. Lots of farmlands, lots of deserted plains. It really added to the modern touch of a modern Western, while also feeling rooted in an old school Western in that regard. The villains in this movie, this entire family, this douchebag family, is definitely what makes this a hard watch. They're backwoods Southern rednecks, probably people that like Donald Trump. They're assholes. The entire time you're just like, yeah, like, come on, Kevin Costner and Diane Lane, like, fuck them up, please. Every scene with them, though, my eyes were glued. There was so much tension in those sequences that I felt as if anybody could erupt any minute. However, I feel like there's an uneven balance in terms of the tension and the mood and the atmosphere in those scenes as opposed to the other scenes where it's mostly just Kevin Costner and Diane Lane sitting around talking, or in the first act, which I thought was really boring. It's just them trying to go get their grandson back, but having like all these pit stops along the way that in a way are necessary, but they feel like they're unnecessary. And I felt that that slowed the movie down. Once this douchebag family is introduced, the movie picks up significantly and I become a lot more interested. It's that first act and the scenes in between those sequences with this douchebag family where I am basically falling asleep in my chair. Kevin Costner's character also does not make the smartest decisions in this movie, as evidenced by the third act and some of what he does in the second act. I second guess this guy a lot. More so in the third act than in the second act. And I was always on the side of Diane Lane's character rather than Kevin Costner's character. The script just felt like it didn't know how to balance the two together, and it felt like they didn't have as much chemistry on screen as they should have, because I felt that the two characters were just polar opposites of each other, just making opposite decisions, having opposite ideologies, and with that, I feel like that just lessened some of the chemistry that Kevin Costner and Diane Lane had on screen in this movie. And they have a lot of chemistry. I mean, Man of Steel, despite the fact that I don't like Kevin Costner as Jonathan Kent in Man of Steel, I actually do like Diane Lane a lot as Martha Kent. She's not given the greatest material in those movies, but they do have great chemistry in Man of Steel. I felt like in this, it was lessened. I felt like casting them two was a bit forced. It was just trying to cast two people that were in a movie together and had chemistry together for another movie that kind of, in a way, has a similar feel to Man of Steel, where it's, oh, hey, they're playing farmers again. It just didn't necessarily work for me, and especially with their characters being on opposite ends of the spectrum from each other. This is definitely a hard watch, but I wouldn't say go and see this to be, like, happy or get, like, or have a stand up and cheer type of moment. This is like a Nocturnal Animals or a Devil All the Time. You are going to hate yourself watching this movie. You are going to have a bleak, depressed feeling come across you while watching this movie. I'm going to say you probably won't enjoy watching this movie, and you probably should only watch it if you have 3/4 worth of a bucket of popcorn. So guys, what did you think of Let 'Em Know? I want some feedback. Drop me a comment in the comment section below. I will leave my link to my website in the description below as well. This is me getting back on track, catching up on some releases from October that I totally breezed over because I was watching horror movies the whole month and doing my Halloween spooktacular. Hope you guys had a lot of fun with that. So I'm going to be catching up on some new releases this week and possibly next week. I'm also planning on reviewing a couple of Sean Connery movies. Unfortunately, Sean Connery is no longer with us. None of the Bond movies, because I already reviewed all the Sean Connery Bond movies. It'll definitely be non-Bond movies, trying to figure it out as I go on. But I definitely want to talk about at least one Sean Connery movie this week or next week. We'll see. Thank you guys for watching. My name is Alex Madden, and I'll see you at the movies somewhere.